Now, Donald Trump Jr. thinks that his father has been treated worse than any other human being in American history. I'm not kidding. Now, this is after President Trump told ABC News' George Stephanopoulos that, quote, "There's never been a time in the history of our country where somebody was so mistreated as I have been." So that's a Trump quote. Nobody in American history has been more mistreated than I have. Now, of course, Trump Jr. basically jumped on Twitter and said, he's right. He's right, you know. Really? I'm sorry. There's never been a time where anybody has been as mistreated as Donald J. Trump, 45th president of the United States, alleged billionaire, son of Fred Trump, who was an actual billionaire, heir to the Trump name and empire, who received $400 million in inheritance money, and a father that continued to bail him out every time he went bankrupt. That guy, the most mistreated president or person in American history. Again, he went bankrupt 6 times. And again, got bailed out by his daddy numerous times. Deutsche Bank loaned him $1 billion over 10 years, which he ended up losing most of it. This man has had every single break in the world. Talk about failing upwards. And he failed all the way upwards to the presidency. And he continues to cry that he's a victim. Somehow, he's the most mistreated. So now, at best, Junior's tweet shows vast ignorance of American history. Donald Trump's never been enslaved. He's never had to work as a sharecropper, never been denied the right to vote due to his race or his gender, never went to an internment camp based on his ethnicity. He's not one of the children that his entire administration has detained at the border. He's not one of the people in Yemen that his administration is aiding in the starvation and genocide of. He's not any of those people. He's not even Abe Lincoln, who was literally gunned down in a theater by John Wilkes Booth. He's not Anne Frank, who was murdered by actual Nazis. No, Donald Trump is on the side of the white supremacists. He's on the side of the neo-Nazis on Charlottesville. He's not mistreated. No, Donald Trump's entitled. He's a rich boy who gets called in the press for being an idiot and having disastrous policy positions in his disastrous administration. In what world is someone like Donald Trump a victim? But see, they can't help themselves. They're always the victim, conservatives are, no matter what. It is, and I love this, he is taking part in the Oppression Olympics. And guess what? He is on his way to get a gold medal. What a sad, sad baby. Now, of course, Donald Trump Jr., after this, was vilified on social media, with Mr. Nick saying, slaves and Native Americans had it easy compared to Donald Trump. Chidey says, the Central Park Five say hello. And by the way, Trump is still going after the Central Park Five. I think they're still guilty. They're still guilty. No, they're not. Literally, they have been found innocent of all the charges. And Donald Trump doesn't care because he's an avowed racist. And he continues to go after people who have been victimized. But no, I'm the victim. Cesario says, so true. Saw him picking cotton behind the White House yesterday. Ms. Penstrepon says, tiny violins for the Trumps, how they have suffered mightily. Sam LeVay said, you missed a few history classes, didn't you, Donnie? Brooklyn Watch says, this map shows over a century of documented lynchings in the United States, mapping the history of racial terror. And he had a link, of course, to that map, which is pretty disastrous. Donald Trump's never been lynched. He's never known anybody. No, he's always been probably on the side. Again, we remember his father, Fred Trump, was an avowed racist. An incredibly racist guy. Was he a good businessman? Much, much better than his sons. But still a horrific racist. Carl Olenhausen says, I'd like to see his long-form birth certificate. That's another thing. He hounded President Obama since at least before 2012 about his birth certificate. Oh, I've got people in Hawaii looking for the birth certificate right now. They're going to find it any day. And he has the gall to shout presidential harassment. Stoner M says, Ivanka will always be the favorite. Please stop trying so hard. Just a Girl adds on to that by saying this will not make him love you. And Carrie R finally says, throw Trump some paper towels for his tears. Believe me, he's going to need them. Because if he's crying this much, imagine when he starts getting crushed during the general election. Now, look, this is mostly fun and ridiculous, right? But it belies something somewhat sinister. And it goes to what he was talking about in another interview. He was saying, some of my followers don't think that I should leave office, that I should get a third term. He hasn't even had a second term. And God forbid, right? But even so, some of my followers still want me to leave. Maybe I should stay. Now, in reality, of course, yeah, maybe some of his followers do. I mean, go back to the video where we showed on another segment a while ago. Subscribe to the channel and you can get access to all those videos. Where this woman said, look, I never thought I'd want a dictator, but if I do, if we're going to have a dictator, I'd want it to be Trump. That is incredibly scary. And for nearly 4 years, he has been priming that very audience for the possibility that he will not give up the White House if he loses this election. Now, the United States, the government, kind of counts on a peaceful transition to power every election cycle where one administration ends up replacing another. No matter how much animosity or acrimony the two sides have had, there has always been a peaceful transition of power, as it's theirs supposed to be. But here you have somebody who feels so incredibly entitled and victimized when he doesn't get his way, who calls everything fake news, who screams about presidential harassment, witch hunts, believes in the deep state coming after him. And here he's saying, you know what? I don't actually want to leave if my term's up. I mean, some people are saying that I shouldn't leave. Some of my fans. Maybe I should stay. His constant victimhood at the investigations, all that stuff, it all seems to point to the idea that there is a possibility that he will not go peacefully if he is defeated in 2020 or even 2024, if he ends up getting a second term. That, I think, is super frightening. Yikes. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.